All right, attendees are coming in.
People are joining, good.
All right, I mean, it's 4 sharp now. I don't know if we should wait another minute, or I see the attendees count keeps going up and up.
It's up to you guys. I'm good. So yeah, I think they're coming up.
I think, you know, it takes a bit of time to connect to the audio and the video. But yes, I'm just gonna say good afternoon to everyone. We'll be starting in 1 minute, just giving it a bit of time for everyone to log in. All right. Good afternoon to everyone who's already connected, and whoever will be connected, they'll kind of sort of keep up. Welcome to, I would say, well, not really our first, but the first of a series of webinars we're starting at Eton Institute called Knowledge Exchange Sessions. My name is Tudor. I'll be your host. I am the Corporate Sales Director here at Eton Institute. And for those of you who don't know, what I do basically is I talk every day to human capital leaders here in the UAE about the training requirements day in, day out. And this has put me over the years in a unique position to understand the requirements and the pain points of some of the human capital markets nowadays. I think this is even more current today with the pandemic and everybody working remotely. So we really wanted to share this, to start this series of very pertinent webinars where we're adopting very current topics. Today we're talking about employee engagement and happiness in the workplace. I was, to be honest and very transparent, very, very surprised to see the response we had to this webinar. We had 120 people registering in advance. So seats might be limited. We're usually capped to 100, but we'll record the session. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to get in, it'll be available to you afterwards. I'm joined today by a very special gentleman, Coach Fahad Khalaf. Good afternoon, Fahad.
Hi, good afternoon to you.
I have had the pleasure of knowing Fahad since 5, maybe 6 years.
Yeah.
Fahad is a veteran of the human resources, human capital industry here in the UAE. He has more than 21 years experience with a track record in managing projects in government, semi-government, and the private sector here in the UAE. He was in charge of nationalization in the banking sector here in the UAE, and he was also heading the Emiratization efforts for Dubai Parks and Resorts. And this is actually how we met, right, Fahad?
Yeah, it is.
Fahad is an employee engagement expert. He's a leadership thought leader, an accredited master coach, and he's the author of the first accredited employee happiness masterclass in the world. We will have him tell him a bit more about his employee masterclass today, and we'll be dissecting some very relevant employee engagement topics with us today at Eton Institute. Fahad, I'm going to start with a very interesting statistic that I came across recently, which said that more than 80% of the UAE workforce is disengaged.
You mean in the UAE, isn't it?
In the UAE, yes.
Yeah.
More than 80%. I mean, that's a huge number. That's absolutely massive. How can we explain that? Is that something new now after the pandemic, or was this always the reality?
Yeah, this statistic was published in Gulf News, I do understand, in October 2018, I believe, or 19. This statistic shows around 85% of workforce are disengaged. Now, I don't want to shock everyone about this, but the whole concept idea of employee engagement has been either misunderstood or kind of could say, being translated in a way that it's not going to provide any organization or stakeholders with actual benefit. Just to make it clear for everything, employee engagement or engagement itself is equal to money making machine. That's the whole thing. So when we say engagement, we also refer to customer engagement. So customer engagement means that with the customer engagement, we generate more money, regardless of the operational cost. When we talk about employee engagement also contribute in making money by reducing the operational cost regardless of the sales are getting. Both of them are very important for the organization, stakeholders, and the managers to understand how can we interpret or embed the whole concept in a good, correct way. Now, what I want to say also is for many reasons, I mean, the employee engagement is not about the end. It's not about only experience. It's not about only the outcome. It's about the triggers that we will be talking about in the whole session. So what I want to say right now, obviously, when we will go through the downline of our discussion, I will explain the difference between getting engaged, disengaged, and actively disengaged. And probably maybe we could shift the scenarios. Maybe I could start now for people to understand. And what I will be talking right now is very important. Employee engagement is something called emotionally from our side we're trying to have. It is purely business strategy concept. If you're a line manager, if you're a stakeholder, if you're a business or an organization, you really need to have a proper employee engagement because it generates a real money and income, either by reducing operational costs or increasing productivity. To start with this, explaining what is engage, disengage, and actively disengage, I brought my daughter's toddler games. So I have to mention it. I have to bring it to explain it to people. So this is the operational cost, the capex and opex, the operational cost here. Here you do have the profit that it generates. Then there is a break even. So the red is basically the profit. In most of the organization, people are looking to have more profit to cover the operational cost. So they don't be in the break even bracket itself. So what happened is when you have this is normal standards ideal scenario of all organization where you have the profit or revenue is more than the operational cost. That's why you see, for example, they generate probably 10% more, 50% more, X number amount of US million dollars for this. So always the revenue, the sales, or the profit has to be much more higher than the operational cost. This is the ideal scenario for a disengage. Disengage is I could say the separate line between getting an engage and actively disengage. So this is fine, okay? You have your own budgets are there, you have everything is there, and you have your sales going on. So when you have someone who's engaged, what happens usually is at the same operational cost, nothing increased, but more revenue comes in. Why? Because people perform more beyond their limitation or requirement. But what happened? They also don't utilize or cost the organization any extra huge fundamental of cost. So what happened is when you have actively disengaged employees across the workforce, what you have is you have people doing the same outcome, but they will make sure they will utilize extra and huge cost of operational cost. That's why you see some organizations, their operational cost is going much more higher comparing to what they used to do. I was reading an article, and I believe it was in 2015 or 16 from Forbes. They were saying that the organization are paying up to $100 billion every year. This is the cost of health insurance because of the burnout, stress, and mental health. Imagine, and by the way, this is nothing to do with the sales. It's all about the operational cost because there are certain areas in the operational cost you can predict, and certain areas you can't predict. Some of them it goes beyond your prediction. It will cost you a lot of money, keeping in mind the legal aspects, the resignation, the productivity, sick leaves, There are many things. So when we are talking about engagement, we are not talking about some emotional, I could say, only emotional aspect or psychology aspect. No, we are talking about real money. That's the whole aspect. I hope it's clear for that.
I mean, I really like the example with the toys, but I think you know, just yesterday as I was driving to the office, I heard they were having a very interesting discussion on the radio, and they were saying that like 7 out of 10 people nowadays in the UAE, they were making the survey, 7 out of 10 feel that they are overburdened at work right now. And I was talking to some of my clients just very recently, and they were saying, you know, because of COVID and how COVID impacted us, like we had to not downsize, but you know, some people had to be let go, and then those people who remained, it wouldn't be fair to say that they're doing the other people's task as well, but they're definitely doing more work than they used to. And I think this is where a lot of people start to feel that they're feeling like they're overburdened and overworked. Is this something that goes hand in hand with disengagement in the workplace, do you think?
Exactly. Overload, burnouts, mental health, there's no work-life balance. All these, even the communication styles, plays huge role in uh, uh, probably downgrading engaged employee to disengaged employee. And this is very important. So I do understand, for example, because of the pandemic, a lot of people have to go. During the economical crisis in 2018 and 2019, also the same thing. So what happened is that the organization have to survive in a certain minimum workforce, and this workforce also has to continue doing what they are doing, plus an extra responsibility, because the company is not willing to either invest more, either they don't have the capability right now or the ability to invest more in employees, or probably the level of work, it will not be enough for them to go ahead and hire someone else. And this is what we come here again for the certain level is, for example, I'm just gonna explain the toy again, is they really wanna maintain this shape. For whatever reason, they wanna still maintain the 10% profit comparing to the last year, because you know the CEO or probably the board members, they have to also to report to the shares or the shares or to the investors that they are also generating 10% every year in addition to the previous year. The only way to do it is either to increase sales or to reduce cost. So to maintain these operational costs, for example, it's very important if they can generate money because of the pandemic, because of the economic crisis, the only way that they have to reduce the operational cost across all levels. That's why you see a lot of deduction on training, a lot of deduction on reducing workforce and everything. So all these important factors, yes, plays a huge role in disengaging employees.
Now, I think we need to go back one step, and really define how would you define employee engagement? What exactly is engagement, and what does it mean to be disengaged? Right? Right now we have 33 people with us, and I'm sure some of them would have the same answer, but some of them would consider it a bit differently. Is it like, what is disengagement? Is it I really want to just stay home today and call in sick, or is it like I'm just doing the bare minimum, you know, just enough to fly by, or what exactly is it? How do we define it?
Disengage employees, like there's no proper or definite definition for that. But based on my experience, what I found, a disengage employee is someone who will be able to provide you the necessary assignments that you had assigned to them. Plus of that, they will cost your organization the maximum budget that you offer them. Actively disengage, what happened is they will not gonna perform 100%. Plus of that, they will also utilize the benefits that you had assigned to them or even more. Someone who's engaged, who will probably give you more work at less cost. So you found it. So it's when you come, for example, if I hire someone to do me a job and I give them, like, for example, $5,000 in a month to do me a certain job, It will also cost me some other elements plus sick leaves, for example. There will probably the work, the quality of work might have an issue, or sometimes they will not be able to be flexible with teamwork. So they will be kind of, I could say, a standard human being, not someone who will be with outstanding performance. So it's a baseline that we're trying to create right now, where disengage means someone who's giving you 100% at the end, or also at the same time, they will be utilizing all the corporate benefit that, even though it's been budgeted, but is not being utilized initially as a couple of $millions or whatever. Actively disengage someone who's not giving you 100% either from quantity or quality perspective, but at the same time, they will not only utilize they will also go beyond the budget or whatever set is there based on the boundaries that the company or the individual have, to start to exceed the benefit that the company do by either a health insurance, by either sometimes being a negative impact in the teamwork, by trying to do a lot of things, including frauds and etc. Uh, what you say, engage employees who are the ones who will give you more than 100%, and they will also make sure that not to exceed the corporate benefits or even lower it. That's why you see a couple of people when they go to work, even though they're sick, they're still coming to work because they love the job. They do have responsibility and they perform more. You have some people who don't have anything, probably they might have a headache, some scenarios, they immediately take 1 or 2 days off, and they will obviously bring you a sick leave, authentic sick leave, whatever. Now, I'm just not talking about sick leave like people said, no, you don't want to people rest. No, I'm just giving an example of sick leave, but probably there is a lot of aspects that, for example, an engaged employees will also, for example, use sometimes their phone to at least complete or to finalize a couple of projects, where disengaged employees or actively disengaged employees, they will say, it's not my job. Let them give me a phone. I'm not going to do anything. So the proactivity elements, it's always will be available with engaged employees. But here's the point, how to make them engaged, that's a totally different discussion, or which we will come through it.
All right, let's very slowly move into that, because I think this is a very important point. But before we do, I just want to say to the participants who are now connected with us online, for those of you who will be staying with us until the end, we will be sharing a free copy of a very well put together employee engagement survey. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, it's just something I can Google, I can find it on the internet. I can tell you that, I mean, I'm not an expert, Fahad is the expert, but I can tell you that it's not really that easy. And why? Because measuring employee engagement and happiness in the workplace is really not an exact science. It doesn't really have to do, how much money I have in my pocket, I can count it. It's a bit of a different science. There's very sensitive questions that need to be asked there. They need to be asked in a certain way. And we're going to look at a few of these questions a bit later on in the survey. But for those of you who will be staying with us until the end, we'll be sending the link right here in the chat. This is something usually that companies and human capital professionals usually pay quite a bit for. So you're in for a treat. Going back on our discussion, Fahad, because it's not all about money, isn't it?
It's not only about money, but at the end of the day,
you cannot throw $1 million dirhams and say, there you go, engagement problem solved.
No, it's not there. It's a full cycle. Just let me explain something. We do understand, or we hear this concept called digitalization transformation, or digital transformation.
Digital transformation, yeah.
Exactly. So digital transformation, what does it mean? There's a lot of huge debate right now between digital and technology. A lot of people who I know expert in IT, they say technology is part of digitalization. So when we say digital transformation or digitalization, here where it comes. There are three elements. They usually run together. Is the tool that we're talking about. So if you have an organization, or you're on a government, or probably you're on a project that you are trying to move your current manual, electronic, or semi processes from a manual semi-auto to fully digitalization or automation, or even an AI. First of all, tools. So under the umbrella of digitalization, we have tools, we have process and procedures, legal laws, and then we have human resources. These three pillars, they make the transformation a reality or in a proper way. So having only the tools, having Zoom without training people how to use Zoom, it's also going to be a useless project, because we will face a lot of issues from the support perspective, which will also impact customer experience and so on. Also, if you train your employees and you do have Zoom technology, but at the same time, you don't have the right laws, rules, regulations, process, procedures, everything, they are not being I could say, modified in a way that to meet the new transformation world. So still there will be an issue. You got me? So
Yeah.
here is the thing. So when we also say employee engagement, it is a responsibility 360 degrees that will come from the employee, will come from the line manager, will come from the stakeholders, or I could say the cultural of the business. And also we need to understand how flexible are the rules and regulations within the organization that also can give the ability to the employees and line manager something I call it the magic spot or the sweet spot, where there is a magic spot suite that we could meet in the individuals or employee needs or requirements. Plus, at the same time, we also will have that kind of capabilities or within the abilities of the line manager. Also, it's within the overall ability of the organization to provide you with your needs. So there is a sweet sweet spot that we really need to understand. So it is 360 degrees, line manager, the employee themselves, the cultural and the process and procedure. It's also similar to any digitalization or the digital transformation.
Now, a lot of our participants looking at the list, I saw the names of some big companies, and I also saw the names of some SMEs, right? So my next question will be, and I was very curious about this, are we more likely to see disengaged employees in a larger organization or in a small or medium enterprise? Do you think this affects in any way the dynamic of employee engagement?
Yes, you will find them generally in big organization, because the culture is so big and you have a different type of people and the structure is so big between the CEOs and the employees. So more gap you have between the employees from a structural point of view, or even from behavioral, even from the assignment that you also assign people to do certain jobs. More gap you have, or more big you are, more challenges you will face. And during these challenges, we'll have more disengaged employees. SMEs, small, medium enterprises or startup, they don't have anything else, because if you have an issue, you could immediately jump to the CEO or whoever is next to them, or probably you could see from a startup perspective, everyone are on the same floor talking to each other. So you will find a lot of engagement. And if there is anything wrong, it can be spotted immediately because they are in a small organization. It's the same thing family. If you have a small family, you can spot a lot of things on time or on spot. But you have a bigger family, for example, if you have 20 kids probably, so it's going to be different to keep in mind and all these stuff. So more big you get as a company, more challenges you face. I don't want to call it issues, because issues you're stuck with it, but challenges it's like an obstacle you will overcome with it. So more challenges will come. So here we need to be clear. How empowered are we at workforce as an HR, as a line manager, and as a process and procedure? That means that we have to be super agile and dealing with a lot of work, keeping in mind the certain boundaries that we need to keep.
I'm stuck to the 20 kids. I'm just thinking that's a lot of tuition money, 20 kids.
To be honest with you, I am a member who is part of this large 20 kids.
Really? I don't want to get your tuition invoice, Fahad.
No, I mean I am a result, so I'm not a creator.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fahad, going back to I think what a lot of people are interested now to hear is how do we detect disengaged employees who are working remotely? This should open a whole new Pandora's box, I suppose, because you can't really rely on, just like you said earlier, like right here at Eton Institute, there's only about 40 of us. So we always see each other. We're on the same floor. We can walk into each other's offices. We have daily contact. But, someone working remotely, like a company would say, I don't know, 300 employees and everybody's working from home, or they have now this flexible policy where they can go to the office once a week, and then they have to work home. How as a line manager or as a department head or as a director, or how do we make sure, what are some of the steps or some of the tips that you can give to our listeners that they can ensure that their teams remain engaged, or how you can gauge this online?
Okay, just to clarify something, engagement, if it was on-site or off-site, which means on office or even virtually, there are principles that we will be talking right now, and then it changes, depends on the situation, if you're remote working or you're in office. But we need to have these basic foundation right. If we don't get these foundation right, here we will not gonna have it. And here is one thing. Many employee engagement surveys or employee experience surveys, whatever fancy word they want to come up with, or at the end of the day, we are talking about certain topic, majority or main of these surveys, they are trying to treat or cure the symptoms, not the actual cause of the disengagement. You got me? And here's what I found. So when I come and I say, for example, if you want to make your employees happy, buy them an ice cream. That's fine. But here's the question. Will they be engaged for the next 3 years because of an ice cream? Or it's a journey that they have to come up with? An engagement is exactly similar to a car, for example. To answer your question, I just need to give this one. For you to drive a car, you need to start the engine, right? Isn't it? So you need to trigger the electric power that comes from the car key to the battery, whatever is the mechanic aspect of it. Then the car will be able to run. So for you to let your employee get engaged for the next 3 years, you need to trigger them. These triggers, there are, based on a research that I came to, we have 33 engagement factors that will engage a human being. Now, what we are talking about, just to clarify also something, we are not talking about the employees as a junior. We are talking about, and I love this phrase, it's called workforce engagement. That means I also need to engage the CEO, because at the end of the day, CEO is an employee. He also needs to deliver certain results. We don't want him to do something at the end of the day, he achieve these objectives and also damages other areas, because not everything money. You have a CSR, you have your own reputation, you have our company stock market reputation, and obviously right now, for the last couple of weeks at the international level, you will also see here a lot of companies, even though they are doing a good money, but their reputation is going so in a bad direction that it's also either impacting their fair share, or also impacting their customer experience. So it's a workforce engagement. Everything is connected to us. There are triggers. What are the triggers that you need to trigger the employees? We found it's around 33 factors. One of them, especially in the pandemic, are the job security. Before, the job security was not a priority at all. During the pandemic, it came as a job security. Now, the employee engagement triggers or engagement factors changes all the time based on the individual situation, or the group or department situation, or even the company situation based on a certain demographic. That's why employee engagement has not to be only as a survey. It has not to be a luxurious practice. It should not be even a secondary practices. It has to be a real strategy embedded within the organization culture. To answer this question, after we understand the whole thing, is before, and we should not even treat the symptom, we have to treat the cause itself. So what we came up, the first thing is the management style. How to manage them is, first of all, we need to understand the management style. Are you, as a manager, working under the umbrella of micromanagement or macro management? Because these two management styles plays a huge role either to engage your employees or disengage your employees. For example, I will just gonna give example of myself. If I, for example, I love macro management as a senior HR personnel or a business consultant, etc. When you come to me as a senior, Give me objectives and I will do it. And don't come every single minute, day come, oh, what happened, what happened. It's like a kid that you're trying to come under me and try to follow exactly what they do. So the whole point is you need to give me things and I'm gonna work freely, give me my space, I will do everything. For example, if I have a manager who is 24/7 using the micromanagement on me, I will be 100% disengaged. So
Yeah.
the first of all, the management style we are always talking about. Second thing is the communication style. Now we are here. I would love to do a survey in the chat itself. If you allowed me, Tudor.
Yeah, please, please.
Sure. Okay. Okay. For all participants, what I need you to do, if you love to receive a feedback in a diplomatic way, press 1 or just type 1. If you love to receive a feedback frankly, straightforward, blunt, you don't like a diplomatic approach, give me 2.
Oh, can I answer this as well, Fahad?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Oh, this is a tough one, man. It's a very tough one. And I see the answers are divided as well. It's a very divisive question. I'm not even sure what I would answer to this, you know? I think it depends on who's giving me this feedback, to be honest.
And I will shock you by my second exercise following this exercise itself. So we have a mixture. We have a majority of the guys in the rooms. They love the diplomatic approach and receiving feedbacks. That's the majority. There's nothing wrong or right on that. Okay, we just need to clear something in mind. There is nothing wrong or right. It's all good. It's all thing. But
It's about preference.
Yeah. But is this approach usable and beneficial at this moment or at this scenario or at this corporate culture? Here what you need to understand. Okay, so majority of them diplomatic. Let me ask you a follow-up question for this. Do you like to give a feedback in a diplomatic way? Press 1. If you love to give a feedback and blunt, frank way, press 2.
Oof, again, tricky position, Fahad, because when I give feedback, sometimes I tend to just let go, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think, yeah, it's very interesting because look, for example, I prefer to receive feedback in a blunt way, but whenever I'm giving it, I'm doing it. I'm Joe Biden. I'm the king of diplomacy when I'm giving it, but when I'm receiving it, you know, I really like it to be told to me straightforward. But yeah, let's see what we have here. Again, a mix.
Exactly. I'm like you, by the way. Certain years, I used to love receiving and giving diplomatic way, but due certain to the work environment, everything, and once you come senior in your profession, you start moving toward frankness more in terms of receiving. Giving, that is between you and your team, and majority of them is, or majority of the approach basically is diplomatic. So we also have a mix. Wow, that's a mix. I feel it's like 50% mix, the second question. Even though the first question was between 70 diplomatic and 30 frank, the second question was around 50-50. Somehow I feel. So this is a small exercise or a small survey that we did together at the 2 factors out of the 33 factors we need to do. And here is one of the things that I'm not trying to criticize other employee engagement surveys or approach or something. Majority of the surveys, they either take a couple of surveys. How is your communication? Now, under the communication, there is 2 factors which we practiced just now. Either you like to receive or give. There's 2 things. So we also, when you come, for example, let me say in rewarding, do you like to earn a fast money or a sustainable growth of money? Do you like to learn or do you like to grow? So there is a lot of aspect that we work on or we need to understand on during my masterclass that whenever I train people about it, is we need to understand all these factors. You don't need to memorize them. You just need to understand them by logic. Does this guy need to be frank with him or do I have to be diplomatic? Did this guy, do they need work-life balance or they are okay to sacrifice their work-life balance because they might be single? Probably, are they okay to work, for example, abroad or no? So there are a lot of factors that we are working on. So here's one of the things when we say about the communication style. This is small example with a group of people that we have here that we came to know. Now, it is my decision, like, or it is my responsibility right now as a line manager when I know a lot of people or certain people that we have a mixture between diplomatic and frank. So then I have to adjust my way. And I'm sure everyone noticed these circulated videos about teachers welcoming students at their own different moves, if you see it, especially probably in other areas or in the US and Europe, where students are or teachers are
Yes,
welcoming.
yes, yes.
So
Where
if
the
you know,
students are coming, the students are coming into the classroom, and then the teacher is there to welcome them, and he has like a special sign kind of welcoming for every individual student. And they're like 20 students or something, right? Yeah.
exactly. And for me, I barely gonna memorize one move, which is my move. But see how the I could say the leadership personality of the teacher, they were able to master the all moves and welcoming signs or welcoming moves for each individuals. That's mean I don't force the students to use one move to welcome me or to welcome the school itself. So the teacher had adjusted themselves in order to welcome. So what does it mean? That means the students, whenever they are going into the class, they will be happy, motivated, they will get engaged because they know that they have been valued in terms of their needs, their requirement, their loves, their hobbies, their whatever they feel it. This is one of the smallest example that I could give in real life when we are talking about communication. And this
So,
is, yeah.
so what you're saying, Fahad, really is that it's a lot of it comes down to managers, to management, to the
Yeah,
actual people who are designated to lead or to manage teams.
exactly. Let me tell you something. Who is more mature, the line manager or the employees, the junior employees?
Again, you're putting me in a very tricky situation here, Fahad, because my boss is watching this. No,
It
it
says
really depends. It really
exactly.
depends.
So in generally, we expect the line managers to be more mature than understanding or more flexible to understand exactly what's really going on. That's the responsibility of being a leader. Now, there's a huge difference between being a leader and manager. They are totally different things, totally different discussion. But it's very important that we need to have the line managers in a certain way that they should be in a personality level of a leadership. They have to understand everything there. Now, if they did everything from their side, but also there is a certain resistance from the employees, unjustified resistance or a negative resistance, or for some reason they are stuck, they don't want to do it. So then it is their own responsibility to tell them bye bye, or to try to fix them, or try to see what we can do. This is the number three. Number four, I always try to see is uh, the trust. Do employees feel they belong to the organization? Not from an administration perspective, it's also from the emotional aspects. Uh,
Purpose, a shared purpose.
exactly. Do they have their values shared? Are they being listened to or heard to? How contributive they are? Uh, are they really doing the job that will benefit the organization, or they are just an extra workforce that they are working with? And so here is a lot of things. So do we really trust our managers? Do we really trust our organizations? Do we really trust the whole culture within the organization? This is a very important aspect that we really need to keep in mind. Trust, when someone will trust you, they will even hand you their lives. Imagine to that limit. So what about work? Work is nothing. You got me? So that's why you see parents sacrifice a lot for the love that they give to the kids, and the kids is also don't worry about a lot of things that is happening within the family, regardless if they are good or right, but because they trust their family, they are willing to go beyond what they have been assigned to.
Hmm. It's 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 a very interesting point, and this takes me back to a very recent situation I had with one of my clients. Of course, I'm not going to mention who this client is, because it's a very well-known organization here in the UAE.
Yeah.
But we were called in to do an assessment of their language capabilities, right, for English.
Yeah.
And I was talking directly to one of the directors, and he said, Tudor, in my evaluation of the situation, I don't know what happened, but my team isn't really conversant in English anymore. They're not asking questions. They're in the meetings, like they're very quiet and so on. So of course we started our assessment process, and then we had one-to-ones with them to check their verbal levels, and their English was actually spot on. It was pretty good. And then it came to light really that what happened is that a lot of them were lately procrastinating, and they were going through this lack of enthusiasm, and this really reflected into them. They just stopped asking questions, and I think that's one of the first signs, one of the first cues that your team is starting to retract in this engagement. And if you don't have a system in place to detect this early on, it's really going to affect your bottom line. So it was a very interesting experience for me, at least, because I never actually witnessed it firsthand before. And also, talking to a few of these guys and going back to what you said just a little bit earlier, you mentioned something about job security, and a lot of these guys in this company told me, they said, what can we do, Tudor? What can we do in this job market? This were the exact words, in this job market. So do you think that there are a lot of people nowadays who are having these sort of issues, but they don't really want to bring them up or surface them or address them to management, so from lower level to higher levels on this vertical, because they're, I don't know, afraid of their job security, or something bad will happen? Is this a phenomenon? Is this happening?
It is happening, and it will always happening. And everything what we are saying right now is not necessarily related to employees or workforce. It's also related to the human being, even at the social level, between your friends. Even though you are for example, we always say, even though you are my friends, but that might not allow me to open up to you. Even we are friends, imagine. So this is not only applicable on workforce, it's also applicable in social life or family life and everything. Yes, there are job security issues right now, which a lot of people trying to hold their jobs by hand and teeth, and they are trying to, as much as I can, not to even, they afraid that in case if they're gonna even suggest something, that suggestion might even return back negatively. Here is the responsibility of the line manager that I believe, or the culture itself. It's called an open door policy. You come, share your ideas. We are in a situation where we need the employees, or we need talents, or we need expertise in a certain technical areas to give us their feedback. Now, the best feedback that you can get from people who are on job itself. That if you're going to ask for a technical expertise, ask your employees. So that's why the line manager has to invest on the building a relationship with them, building a rapport, building a trust with them, even invest in listening skills. They also need to come up with a certain areas of, I could say, management development program, where we also need to upskill and reskill the managers' certain capabilities and skills and competencies, so to match our requirement. Because trust me, even though in this certain hard, difficult areas, there are still things that we could do much more better, convert the crisis into opportunities, but we cannot do it when we have a disengaged employees. For example, I'm just gonna come again here. Right now, this is the ideal level of the organization. I wanna make more money. I cannot make more money if I have disengaged employees. And the disengaged employees will always disengage if the management are not good, which will create another burden of additional cost or expenses on the organization and so on. So here is this very important thing. Managers also need to invest, because it's in their own interest for the employees to get engaged, to produce more, and to give more outcomes or out results, I could say. So then they could also present it to their management as part of the leadership team. So it is very important that the job security right now is not only having a job security, but here is one of the things that I don't want to get into a huge debate on it, but when we say human capital, the terms of human capital, The terms of human capital is being understood, and I'm surprised from a couple of organizations that they call the HR department as a human capital department. There is a difference between human capital and HR. Human capital is basically a concept at the strategic, economical, political level that they want to see the manpower within the country, how do they contribute into the country itself. So either it's an economical contribution or political contribution, whatever is there. So basically it's kind of at the country level. They want to see how many talents, how many resources in the workforce that they have in the country, that these manpower or this workforce are contributing into the economical growth. That's a huge umbrella. So when I say human capital, that's the whole point. Is now as an HR, am I also preparing a talent for the country themselves? What happened if this employees lost their job, her or his job? Are they willing? Are they going to have another job, for example? Are they ready for any transition? That's why till this moment, you see Google, for example, they had introduced an academy with a lot of topics that they are free. Imagine, so they are basically trying to prepare the society or the next generation or the next new future jobs with necessary skills, even though they don't need them, they will not hire them. But the whole point is to prepare a talent for the country themselves. That's what I'm going to emphasize on.
Fahad, I am now going to share with everyone in the chat box the link to your survey.
Okay.
Do you want to tell us a bit more about this and perhaps maybe also introduce us to your masterclass?
Yeah, sure. This survey, for example, it's a very detailed survey that we usually ask a lot of clients to do it. So I'm doing complimentary because I'm doing another study right now. During the pandemic and after the pandemic, what are the major changes in the surveys or in the engagement or the workforce engagement factors? Before, we do understand that appreciation was one of the most important, communication styles was one of the most important factors. Right now, based on the trend or based on the surrounding observation, we notice that appreciation is not anymore welcome. Appreciation is also something good, but the most important right now is money. The money was somehow in the middle. Right now it came up. Job security is very important. Now mental health and well-being is also one of the more important aspects that we need to keep in mind. So the huge shift between human needs and requirement before the pandemic and after the pandemic. So I'm still doing a research and I want to understand what are the major differences. So if you go to my website, which Tudor obviously mentioned it in the website, mention it in the chat, you could go there. It's a Google form. You can just mention your details and you can go ahead, and also you can share it with the friends. And for the ones who completed, they will get a copy for the overall report for free without the charge because you are a proactive contributor to the survey. So that's one part. And when it comes to the masterclass, I do have a 2 to 3 days masterclass, which we go in depth in details about the employee engagement. I called it Employee Happiness Masterclass, where we go into deep details of what are the main 33 factors, what are the things you do it, how do you measure them. We also do it practically. We're not going to talk only theory, we're going to talk also practically from a science perspective, from neuroscience as a human psychology, with everything. And this is not only applicable to junior, it's also applicable to senior, also applicable to corporates, B2B, and everything. So I'm there, and I would love, for example, probably you can also, to make it easier, maybe you guys, they can contact you, Tudor, and then you can manage the survey, or you can contact me. But I will leave it to you. I'm always open for that.
Yeah, of course. No, I think it's very interesting to talk about it because, you know, at the end of the day, especially here in the UAE, when you say employee happiness, you really refer to everyone. All right. It's not like, I don't know, it's not like, unless they're kids, because in the UAE, everybody's working, right? Everybody's an employee somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Whereas, you know, if I'm at home, if I'm in my country, you say employee happiness, you refer to a certain sector of the population who are employed somewhere, but here we're all employees. We all work somewhere, right? So it's I think it's acutely relevant, and I really wanted to have this webinar with you because I know you really know what you're talking about, and you're also always very current and very up to date with all these trends. And for those of you who haven't heard of Fahad before, basically he's very well connected to a lot of Emirati organizations since many years. And one of the reasons why I really admire him for is that he really set off after accumulating all this experience, and he started his own consultancy. And this is his bread and butter right now. And I cannot think off the top of my head of someone who's more qualified to talk about the subject than Fahad. So if you'll follow that link and go through the survey, follow the reports, I'm sure you'll find very useful information. If not for your organization, then for your own personal benefit and use.
Exactly. Yes, it's for their own personal benefit. So they get the copy of the report. They really understand everything from engagement perspective.
I think we're coming close to the Q&A section. So I just want to ask everyone, whoever might have a question. We've already received a few questions. And if you guys have any more questions that you can think of, please write them in the Q&A box. So I'm going to start going through them. Can you tell us, Fahad, is in an employee engagement survey, do you think a good question to ask would be, theoretically, if you were to resign tomorrow, what would be the main reason?
Can you elaborate more? It depends.
This is one of the questions that I received separately. So I am an employee in an organization. Okay, I get the survey from HR, and one of those questions in that survey is, if you were to resign tomorrow, what would be the main reason, theoretically? Do you think this is a good question to assess employee engagement?
No, that's wrong. This is the same mistake where many recruiters, I know recruitment team, they will hate me for that, but this is one of the main shortfalls that the recruiter said, what are your weaknesses? More than just saying, what are your strengths that we can make a use of? So instead of asking what are the main reasons that you will resign, or what are the main reasons that will make you resign tomorrow, is ask the question, what will need for us to keep you for the next 3 years? Because if you're gonna ask this question, it's very simple, my manager, my culture, my everything. These are one of the questions where you will understand the employee's triggers of engagement. Here is one of the things. So when you say, for example, what will require from us to keep you for the next 3 years, then you will see they will not gonna say money only. They will say learning, growing, additional assignment, exposure to something, for example. I want to also give certain examples. I remember in 2007, 2008, I was working in one of the multinational companies. It's like an international multinational company. I was heading the call center or the phone banking department, which is for the Middle East and India itself. And the English team was based in India. And I had around 216 employees, around 16 managers, 32 team leaders, and the rest supervisors, and something employees were reporting to the whole department. So, in a call center, the resignation turnover is so high. Yeah, this is by default. So what I did is, and during that time, imagine, and for some reason, I don't know how that happened, employees used to work from 8 to 1, and then they have to come back to work from 4 to 8. Imagine someone is working in that one. That's mean they have almost zero social life. I don't know. So this is one of the things. The plus of that, they were over budget by $400,000. The majority of the audit that has happened, they were so high or high risk, between high risk and medium. There are a lot of things. So when I was viewing this, the first week, the second week, I immediately made a lot of announcement. There is no more split shift. There is a continuous shift, 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, Also, we did 7 to 3 or 7 to 4. We also did 10 to 6. We did the flexible working hours, straight shift, and everything there. At night shift, from a high risk perspective and also from engagement perspective, there's only one person in the call center. This is not right. We need to have two at least. So at least that one person can speak to the second person and enjoy. Okay, can we bring, I remember that, can we bring a PlayStation? Can we bring a TV? Yes, go ahead. As much as not affecting the customer experience and everything, okay, go ahead. And we did a lot of things. Plus of that, we did our own internal audit. We assigned our own team to audit our own self. Then we send them for a training within the audit team to get trained so they can audit our own department before the real auditors come or the external auditors come. The whole thing perspective we did in the next 3-4 months, our customer satisfaction, it was from 60s, it went immediately to 86 in only 4 months.
Wow.
We were from a department who were minus $400,000 to generating profit through cross-selling. Plus of that, our resignation from 37%, it went to 9%. From a high risk, we thanks God, we manage most of the things at low risk and medium risk. We had the succession planning. There's a lot of things. So employee engagement sometimes is only need to change the shift working hours, show working status. Now, I don't want to go, the whole list will continue. Probably I need 1 hour just to mention examples and case studies. But all these case studies I'll also mention at the masterclass. I'm not here to do a sales pitch. I'm here to give the real information that there are millions of ways that you can engage the employees by only changing a small tweaky thing that it's going to be fine. Could be the shift, working hours, maybe 8 to 4, it does not work good. Maybe you should make it 9 to 6. Maybe you should do it 7 to 3. These small changes at tweaks will add a huge value that to the employees, which will reflect by default into the organization.
Yeah, yeah. Someone else is asking us how should a disengaged employee deal with procrastination working from home? Procrastination and lack of attention. Now that there's so many activities begging for our attention, left, right, and center. So on one hand, we really want to be part of something bigger than us. We want to be part of this organization. We want to be a part of these goals and these achievements. But to my left is the cat. To my right is food. The fridge is there. The TV is there. Netflix is just one button below. So how do I realign myself with the values, vision, and mission of the company, and go around procrastination working from home?
Here, there is a responsibility on the line manager and in the individual. So from the individual perspective, let me say this one. I don't want to also gonna load the managers heavy, but I also want to have a responsibility on the individuals themselves. So on the individuals, they need to have a self-discipline about them. So if it's a working hours, for example, 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, whatever is the timing there, they also need to disconnect themselves or give kind of an instruction to the family or to the surrounding that they are working from this, that they don't need any distraction. It's a self-disciplinary. And it's also a collaboration between the surrounding, either the husband or either the kids or either something. But I don't want to mention, but maybe we can give example, maybe for if you feel that your kids is giving you a hard time, maybe you could hire a friend, hire someone who they can keep with you or take them to the nursery. Or if your kids are grown up enough, you tell them, for example, from this time to this time, you don't come back to me. So you also need to have that self-disciplinary between you and yourself. I know Netflix is there. Throw the Netflix away for the time being until you come back, because you don't want to have Netflix the reason if you're firing. Keep that's in mind, or the low performance. So here are one of the things I always say you keep in mind. You also need to manage your time, and also you need to manage the load work. So and there is a huge what do you call it? Time management and work management training that will also tell you you have to do 80% of the everyday work at the early morning, and then it reduces by the end of the day. So when it comes at the end of the day, you will see the load is so tiny that barely you need any effort to do it. So the main chunk of the work you have to do it in the beginning itself. So that's one of the things. Sorry, I
All
want
right.
to go more, but I know the timing is there, so I'm just giving one option and stopping there.
Yeah. No, look, I think this was a good first session of our webinar series. I really thank you very much for your time, Fahad, and I thank everyone for joining us. I see some familiar names on the list. I really look forward to reconnecting after this, get your feedback, get your impressions, get more questions. We're definitely going to be in touch with some interesting resources after this. I think we should very soon schedule another session because clearly it's a huge topic and it impacts all of us again. If you have anything else to add, Fahad, or if anyone else has any other questions, to type them in the chat.
Yeah, sure. From my side, first of all, I would really like to thank you and Eton Institute for this initiatives, and I'm sure adding value to the listeners and sharing real information, and it will really add a huge, tremendous impact positively into people's life from an individual perspective and even organization. This is one of the things, and also from my side, I would love to share this kind of the real employee engagement approach itself, because I do understand there's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding when it comes to this aspects, and it's not only one-time thing that you have to do it. It's an ongoing process. It's a journey. It's a survey that you have to do. It's just many things. So thank you very much for your time for all the participants.
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry. So we received one last very late question,
No
which
problem.
I have heard very recently from someone else. This person says people do not leave jobs; they leave managers.
Exactly.
To what extent is this true?
I feel it 100% true. From an experience perspective, as a senior in a leadership roles, and also as consultant and as everything, it is true. People leave organization for lesser money. People leave organization for more challenge. People leave organization for lower responsibility or even designations and so on. So it is very true. That's why probably I can elaborate more. I remember I was working on also in one of the distribution channels in one of the multinational banks in 2001 or 2002. The department manager, the head of the department, within his objectives was to ensure not more than 5 or 10% of turnover from his team. So what this happens is any resignation that comes, he personally will meet them after it goes through the assistant manager, team leader, and there is no final resignation will get signed unless this department head is convinced to go ahead or to meet the guy and try to provide some kind of retention perspective, because he is accountable of all the people are leaving. So if there are accountability within the job description or job objective of the line manager or as a stakeholder or as a department function, or either from a strategic aspects or either from human resources. So even from a human resource, if someone said, I will resign, and what is the reason? Personal reason. There is nothing called personal reason. Personal reasons, it is categorized personal reasons, but what are the main reason? As an HR, tell me, you have my word, I'm not gonna mention it to anyone. If I can solve it, I will solve it. If I cannot, it will stuck there. So what stays in Vegas, it stays in Vegas.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And this is what, and that's what I found. 99% of people who write personal reasons, there is something when we sit with them and chat with them, there are real reasons comes, and they are major reasons, by the way, that sometimes to be honest with you, I'm sorry, I'm going above, but there are certain areas where we have to change a whole approach and strategy from a continuous feedback of resignation for a certain area to that extent. So there is nothing called personal reasons. We need to understand what are the main reasons for that. And this statement's true.
All right, Fahad, thank you so much for your time, and everybody who joined us at this time on Tuesday. Appreciate your presence, and we'll definitely see you on the next exchange session. Thank you so much, and have a good evening. Fahad.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. You take care.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.